Hey, what is up guys? My name is Alan from Unfiltered Bits, and today I'll be reviewing a keyboard. But before I do all the talking, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I am not a keyboard enthusiast. I am a tech enthusiast. I love tech. I like tech, but I'm not focusing on keyboards. Although I've used a lot of keyboards, I've touched a lot of keyboards, typed in a lot of keyboards, and even modded some. I don't know the nitty-gritty of the keyboards, like how many floors does it take for this specific switch to activate? Or what's the molding process of this keyboard? What's like everything in it? You know, I'm not that type of guy. So today, I'm going to give you my perspective as someone who actually plays a lot of games and a tad bit competitive, and also someone that works a lot, which means I have to use this keyboard a lot. And if you don't already know by the title, it's a budget keyboard that has analog switch or magnetic switch. This is what we call the Mad68HE. Yes, this one is a Mad68HE because I cannot live with a keyboard that doesn't have the arrow keys. But with that said, this whole video would probably apply to majority of the Mad Lions keyboard lineup. And maybe there's some exceptions, such as the Pro Edition, which has 8,000 polling rate and a better magnetic switch, but we'll talk more about that later on. But yeah, as someone that uses this keyboard daily for about 3 months now, I'll be giving you my honest opinion about it. So the first things first is, of course, the build quality. How is the build quality of the keyboard? So when I first touched the keyboard, the first thing that I noticed with the Mad68HE is that it is not that premium. Although it's trying its best to be wooden, it's not really present with the actual body itself. Like if you touch this right now, it feels like a toy, kind of, because I've used a lot of different keyboards. Even though they have plastic bases or whatever, they have at least some weight into them, but this one feels extremely light. And yeah, it's really light. Now it's on the budget side, of course, and we'll talk more about the price later, or I'll have the price somewhere in the screen right now. But the base does feel cheap, pure plastic, although quite a bit solid. And the keycaps that comes with it are actually PBT keycaps. I'm not sure if it's a single die, but it felt like not a dual shot PBT keycap. But they were good. They were textured and they were okay. Although they had a little bit of clearance issue that I'll be talking more about later on. Now, the initial key process that I've had with this is it kind of felt a little rattly and mushy. Now, the more I used it, the more it kind of went away. Maybe I just need to press them more for them to feel a little bit more better. But yeah, that's what happened with my initial key process. Now for that, the sound, I won't recommend it for the sound. We're here for the performance of this keyboard, okay? So there's definitely a little bit of rattle. The board has some hollow sound because it's just plastic and there's nothing much in it. I didn't mod the keyboard as well. I only changed the keycaps. Compared to the deeper sounding keyboards that I've used in the past, all the normal keyboards, this one just feels a tad bit hollow, at least for me. The layout, of course, this one is a 68% version. You can also get it with the 60 version without this part and then this part, it kind of like that. But yeah, as I told you at the start, I cannot live with a keyboard that doesn't have the arrow keys because I use it a lot. Now the layout here as well, it starts out with the tilde key on top and then delete right below it. So some keyboard has their delete right here, which I do prefer, by the way. But since this keyboard has really good software, you can just rebind any keys to any key. But yeah, I kept it default for the meantime. Now, talking about the software, you don't have to install the software. You can actually just go ahead and go to this web link right here on top of my head, and it's just a website. All you have to do is connect the keyboard, and there you go. It's connected, and you can customize it there, update its firmware there, And yeah, the updating process, great. I'll talk more about it in a different video. I'm not going to be talking much about the software in this video, but I just want to say that the software or the web software is really great. Of course, since this is kind of like a Wooting copycat in a way, you have adjustable actuation, meaning you can adjust how heavy you press before it actuates, before it activates the key. It also has rapid trigger, which makes everything feel so much faster. Just to explain rapid trigger, you basically let go a small bit, like you don't have to fully let go like that. You just have to let go literally like a feather, then it would stop actuating, if that makes sense. The next thing that I love about the keyboard software is, of course, it has SOCD. So basically, if I'm holding A, then I press D, it's going to stop taking A as an input, and then D will take it as an input. And then if you let go of D, it'll take input of the A again. And of course, lastly, customize the key mapping. So that's not a problem, whether you like the delete up here or just right above the right arrow key. And if you change keycaps, you can just change this keycap to this keycap, and then you're good to go. And then just rebind this as well. Now, the other thing that I like in the software is that if you press something and then you hold and press it, triggers a different key input, which is amazing. But that's pretty much the software. I'll have another video out about it because there's a lot of stuff in the software, but I'll do a full guide, like updating the firmware, whatsoever, yada, yada, yada. But now let's talk about the gaming performance, because, you know, the title of this video is basically saying that if you're a budget gamer, this is the only keyboard that you need. And I might actually stand by it. Now, the gaming performance, of course, since I've got the Mad68HE standard edition, I'll just call it standard edition. There's a lot of different editions for some reason, but let's just take it as Pro and then standard. Everything below the Pro is a standard. The gaming performance difference is that, as what I have said at the start, Pro edition has better keycaps, really cool design too, similar to Wooting's custom one. And then it has better magnetic switch that are smoother, and it has 8,000 polling rate. And that's the only difference that I have in mind when it comes to the standard edition and the Pro edition of Mad Lion's keyboard. Since you're probably wondering now, is this thing wireless? Nope, it is not. You probably expected it. It's wired because it has magnetic switches. And I don't think even Wooting has a wireless edition right now, but I think they're working on it. And if you're asking, have I touched a Wooting keyboard before? I have, and I've tried one from my friend. Of course, it's not mine. It's too expensive. This feels almost like it, but the cheaper version. Now, again, going back to the gaming performance, 1000 polling rate doesn't matter. The main snappiness comes from this keyboard having rapid triggers and also custom actuation. Now, of course, the first time I tried it, I set everything to the highest one. Like, just barely a touch, it'll register the key. Didn't work out that well for me, especially because I type a lot. So if you do type a lot, don't do that. Set it to something that you can actually use. Now, of course, my WASD are still the ones that are, you know, easily pressed, if that makes sense, easily actuated. While the spacebar, escape, caps lock, tab, shift, control, and alt is a little bit different. While the Windows key takes the full key press before it registers, because that's just how I want it to be. With all of that said, although it is amazing for fast-paced games, shooter games, in any games really, it's a great keyboard. Not the best sounding and feeling, great keyboard for games. The quality assurance. Remember earlier when I said about the keycap clearance? It's because my A key kept being stuck at the first part of using it. It just kept stuck. Like, it's not like stuck, but it doesn't go all the way up. It's because of the keycap. I think my W, Q, and S keycap is a little large for this part. I don't know how that happened, but it felt a little stuck than the usual, you know? I tried changing the switches because I thought it was the switches of the A and M, but it kept doing the same thing. I switched to a lower profile keycap that I have from my other keyboard. Worked wonders. Now, for the general use and comfort, it depends for you. It depends on the user, actually. So the comfort of this keyboard is really subjective, because I personally prefer keyboards that, you know, has adjustable angles or adjustable height with, you know, let's say this keyboard that I have right here, which is the KeyMove keyboard. It has this kickstand, which I don't get in this keyboard. So whatever it came with, I must adjust myself to it. and I don't have to see for my preference. I have nothing to do with it. So I switched to low profile keycaps, worked kind of well for me, adjusted to it. I went back to this, and now I got a higher chair, so now I sit better with the keyboard. So now this feels okay. It doesn't feel amazing, but it now works, and I probably have adapted to it. And of course, when it comes to the typing and all, as I said earlier, you don't want to set everything to the lowest actuation point or the easiest actuation point, because you'll probably get a lot of typing errors. Now, for my final verdict, this keyboard is amazing. Yeah, it is. I'm not even joking. I haven't had a single problem with it. As soon as I've dialed in my settings, updated my firmware, zero. This is an amazing budget-friendly alternative to the wooden keyboards. It's just a great choice. Now, of course, there's other brands that is coming out with this type of keyboard, like a rebranded version of this. Yeah, I know those keyboards exist and they might be a tad bit better, but since this is the keyboard that I've been using for quite a while now, this is the one that I'm reviewing, and it's also the one that I have. Now, however, if you're someone that types a lot and only cares about the typing experience, I don't recommend this keyboard at all. It doesn't give you any, any betterment on your typing skills. I much rather buy myself a custom keyboard that can basically do what a keyboard does, but I can choose how it sounds like. Another thing, this keyboard is hot swappable, as you've probably noticed, but there's not a lot of options in the market right now. There are some, which is better, but that's going to add expense. So I'm reviewing this keyboard as it is, except for the keycaps, but that doesn't change much of it anyway. The keycaps, or sorry, the switches here are so tightly, like, they felt glued. So when I was actually removing some of the keycaps, yeah, it actually doesn't just come out normally. It's very tightly in there. So be careful, because I broke two, or not really break them, but I kind of cracked them a tad bit. And another thing with the switch is that it's not as accurate as a wooden keyboard. Not gonna lie, if you go to their website and you try pressing each of this key multiple times, and you just press them as hard as you can, they would actually come out with different numbers. They're not all 2 grams or something, or 2 fours or something like that. They're a tad bit different, but in just like 0.00 something different. So it's not that bad. And if you're new to this whole magnetic switch keyboard, you're probably not even gonna notice it, as long as you have the feature that I've mentioned before, which is the pros of this keyboard. And that is why, overall, if you're looking for a gaming keyboard, your first gaming keyboard, or your first magnetic switch gaming keyboard on a budget, then there's a solid pick. And would I be switching back to a regular keyboard such as this one with a lot of RGBs? No, I won't be, because I don't have to. This one works, it's wired, I don't have to type. I use this keyboard for my second PC, but for my main everything, I'll be sticking with this for now.